Good evening, everyone, and welcome to James Gillespie's High School Parent Council for the first meeting of this year. I am Hilary Snaith, one of the acting co-chairs of the Parent Council, and you're very welcome to join with us this evening. So yes, indeed, the first thing to say really is welcome, and I hope we've got some of our new S1 parents joining us, and so particularly warm welcome to them, but also to everyone who's returning back, hopefully enjoying the start of the new school year as we move into whichever week. Is it week 4 now we've already arrived at, which seems quite amazing. It seems the summer went awfully quickly. So indeed, welcome to everybody. And I hope that you can hear everything and you can see our slides okay. So just briefly to go through the agenda for this evening, we have had a few apologies from members of the Parent Council who aren't able to join us. So thank you to them though for sending those in. Though we will just have a brief report of what the Parent Council has been doing and a few little words to introduce really what we do. Obviously, we appreciate that some people here are joining for the first time, so just want to give a little bit of sort of context for the work that the Parent Council does at James Gillespie's. And then Tanya Peters is going to say a little bit about school attendance. As you know, we all got an email today sort of recording the attendance of our young people at the school. So Tanya's just going to say a little bit about that. And then we'll move on to the report from the head teacher on various activities at the school. As you can see, we'll cover sort of the results of the school survey, which was shared at the end of last session. And Ms. McCallum will say a little bit more about that. There have been various issues that I think that Parent Council wanted to raise, and again we will hear comments on the website and communications in general for parents with the school and use of the school app. There's obviously been a lot of interest recently about how our young people are using mobile phones, how they're used in the classroom. And again, the head teacher will give sort of reflections and feedback on how the school, our school, is addressing that issue. And then there are issues, again, that have always come up, and we're sort of continuing just to understand and support the school to develop changes to the way toilets are used, just to make people feel safe and want to use those, and also issues around sort of study space as the school roll grows, whether there's space within the school buildings for S6 to find quiet spaces to study that are suitable for them. And then we will finish at the end with a question Q&A. So we would encourage you to please put your questions into the Q&A panel. It's open now. We will close it probably at some point. We'll put an announcement into the Q&A to say when the Q&A will close, and then we will deal with those questions at that point. So just quickly to say, for those who aren't aware, that there are a number of office bearers for the Parent Council. These people we were either co-opted or elected onto the Parent Council back in October of last year. So these are the office bearers for 2023 to 24. It will change at our AGM, which will be next month on the 9th of October. So then the members will be re-elected or will move on or off the committee at that point. But Tiziana Bassiani is the other co-chair, and you can see everybody listed there. So we have a vice chair, we have 2 co-secretaries who take responsibility for minutes, etc. And we have a treasurer, Kirsten Layton. Aileen Nimmo is down as refreshments. She is stepping down for certain this session, but many thanks to her for all the work she has done to provide her and her team to provide refreshments at various school events. And hopefully some of you have had teas and coffees from Aileen and her team at some of those activities, concerts, etc. Many thanks to Kate Pino, who is on the call at the moment. She is behind the scenes making sure that our team's call works perfectly, and also puts material up onto our website. And as I say, I am the co-chair. So this is who has been on the Parent Council office bearers for the last session. So what we do, and I'm sure many of you are aware, but just to sort of make it clear that we really are a conduit for parents and carers to connect with the school. So as many of you know, and some of you will have sent in questions today that you would like to see addressed by the school. And so we feed those in and discuss those with the school leadership team, and hopefully then feedback responses from them to the wider parent forum, to the parent body. We also coordinate with other parent councils and hear about the issues they're dealing with and the approaches they're taking to deal with issues within the school, within their schools, and what we can learn from that. We also make representations to the City of Edinburgh Council. So, for instance, around the budget, last year there was sort of cuts proposed to the education budget, and delegations were made to the City Council to explain why that was not something that we would recommend at all. And another activity that we undertake is some limited fundraising for school projects, for books, etc., etc. In essence, what we really do, though, is we hold these meetings, such as the one today. So there are 6 meetings a year, 3 before Christmas and 3 after Christmas. And since the pandemic, where we did everything online, we've now moved back to doing 3 online, but then back to 3 in person, which are held in the school library. And we find that makes it accessible for people who maybe can't come out of an evening because they have caring responsibilities. So it's easier to join online. But at the same time, we recognise that it's really, really good to actually be present in person and actually engage personally with the other parents and carers who are joining those meetings. So the programme of all the meetings is on our website, and you can see the address is given there on the bottom of the slides. So just to say a little bit about the Small Sums Fund. So the Parent Council has this fund, which is to provide additional resources to support and enhance the experience of our young people in the school. We raise funds through refreshments at school activities, and as I say, Aileen has done that for several years, and she has been fabulous because she has recruited a successor to her, who is Jolita. So we're very grateful to Jolita for taking on the role of coordinating the provision of refreshments. But we also have easy fundraising, which you probably are aware. If you sign up through Easy Fundraising and then visit various online retailers, and we get a small donation every time you buy something online. Which is, I mean, at no cost to you, but we benefit through to the Parent Council. And you've probably also seen that if you go on Parent Pay, where you would put on your where you go to pay for things like school lunches, etc., or school trips, there's also a button in your things that you can donate to the Parent Council, so you can make a small donation anytime you feel you would like to via Parent Pay, and that actually brings in quite a lot of funding, which goes directly into the Small Sums Fund, which then goes back out to teachers' activities at the school to support our young people. So last year, every year we put out a call for activities to teachers, and they submit their applications, and they're assessed through a group that's from the Parent Council. And we were able to support new sports trips, we were able to support an advanced higher biology field trip, support activities in Black History Month, subscriptions to online teaching resources. So they're all things that go back into the school and hopefully benefit our young people while they're in the school. I also wanted to shout out to Miss Aitken, who's one of the maths teachers. So she was fabulous over the summer, and some of you may have seen this, but she wanted to raise some money for the Pupil Equity Fund to support maths for pupils that are Pupil Equity Fund pupils. And she does facials, and so she was very generous, and she organised some pay what you can facials that people came into the school during the summer holidays, and obviously enjoyed that very much and made a donation. And so she raised funds for the maths classes, and I believe that she's going to do that again on a future occasion. So we will make sure that that is something that we support, and that and we'll let you know about it through to the parent body. So if you wish to go and have a facial that is an autumn facial, possibly, then if Miss Aitken does it, then we will make that available to you and let you know what's happening there. So thank you very much to Miss Aitken for all the work that she put into that. Brings me to every meeting we do have to report on what our finances look like. So this is just a summary. So many thanks to Kirsten Layton, who is our treasurer, and you see the email address there if you never need to get in touch with the treasurer. So she's sort of summarised our finances. So the balance as of today is £829.23p. We raised, as I mentioned, Easy Fundraising does bring us income. So that's over the last session, since the last meeting at the end of June, £99.71p, which is not an inconsiderable sum for absolutely no effort for people. So thank you to those who do sign up. I mean, £100 is, it's £100, so that's really useful. And as you can see, our parent pay balance is actually £2,876.74p. So again, thank you so much to parents who are making those donations and which will then feed in, as I say, to the Small Sums Fund, and it really does make a difference. So thank you again to any parent who has made a donation that way. To say the small sums fund applications opened in mid-May. They're going to stay open until the end of September, and then we will allocate the funds. And so if anybody is interested in contributing to assessment of the applications, please do get in touch with Kirsten. She's always looking for a small group of people to look over the applications that come in, and make sort of the assignment of funds to the different projects that have been have applied. You see, the second item, though, is that we have not received funds from the City of Edinburgh Council. So as a parent council, we receive a block grant effectively from the City Council to support our activities in general, and that pays for things like the licence for the teams that we're on just now. It pays for our website license from WordPress, for instance. And so any funds that we don't spend, we also feed into the Small Sums Fund. Unfortunately, and for reasons that we're not unclear about, we did not receive our donation from the City Council for last year, 2023-24, and we haven't received any funds as yet for 24-25. So as this actually provides quite a lot of support to the school, we are very keen to work out what's happened there, but we have escalated that to the council, and we hopefully will receive both last year's donation and this year's donation soon, but obviously we don't know when, but we will certainly report back to the parent council once we've established what the situation is there. So yes, that's at the moment we have a reasonable sum, but we should have at least 1,300 more, which should go into the balance once it's been paid. I just wanted to make just a couple of things that are coming up that you might be interested in as parents at the school. So there is the City of Edinburgh Council has a consultation meeting tomorrow night, which is about there's going to be a consultation about the guidance for contributions expected from developers when new homes are built. So as we're quite aware, there are a number of new housing developments across the city, and so the council is reviewing what a developer needs to bring into the area when they're building new houses, what facilities they need to be, what facilities developers need to also build when they're building the new homes. So there is a link that we are able to share, so if you're interested to attend the meeting and understand what that would look like, please do let us know and we can share that link if you're interested to contribute to that consultation. There was also something that came from the City Council over the holidays, which is about parental engagement in general and about the Edinburgh Learns project. So there's a thing called Learning Together, which is a strategy for engaging parents and carers and how you might get involved with the life of the school and the learning that your young person is doing. The slides here have a link, and we will circulate the slides afterwards, where you can go and see what the council is proposing, and if you have any feedback, they're very keen to receive that feedback. I think this is something, it is so important that education is three-way. I mean, obviously it's parents, it's the school, and it's the young people, and so getting that balance and getting the lines of communication correct and the engagement correct is so important. So if you're interested in finding out more, when we circulate the slides, there's a link there, and you can also find it on the Parent Council website, so more information is available. At this point, I draw my comments really to a close, but I think we're always interested to know what issues are important to parents and carers. Obviously, as a parent council, that the members of the parent council have their own ideas about, and that's what has informed this meeting that we're running this evening. But what topics, we're very interested to know what topics that you as the broader parent forum would like to know about. Are there particular curricula that you would like to hear about? Are there particular topics or areas for discussion that you would like to bring up? So I would invite anybody to put your questions into the chat at this point, or into the Q&A box at this point, so that we can use that to inform how we set the agenda at future meetings that will come up during the year. I'll maybe just sort of pause for a moment and let you put your questions into the Q&A. As usual, if you could upvote anybody comment, so if somebody else has the same idea that you have, rather than writing it again, if you could just upvote it, that would be super helpful. But then, yeah, as I say, we will take your comments forward and use those to sort of develop the agenda for upcoming meetings. So I will just stop for a minute or so and let you have some peace to think about what topics you might like us to address in future meetings. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions going in. Oh, yes, somebody's asked, can we share the link for tomorrow's meeting? Yes. Oh, great. I'll just publish those questions. So thank you for your comments there. That's super helpful. And yes, we will maybe once Mr. McCallum is making his comments, I will go and extract the link for tomorrow's meeting, and maybe, as you say, I'll just pop that in the chat. Okay, so thank you so much for the comments that have been put in, and we'll move on now. And if you have any ideas later on, feel free to put them in. It's always just really helpful, and I know sometimes once the juices get flowing, you think, oh yeah, actually, I'd really like to know about that. We can obviously take your comments later on in the meeting. Okay, so really just to end with the next meeting, as I said before, it's the 9th of October, which is our AGM. If you are thinking you would like to join the Parent Council, that would be your opportunity to put your name forward. So please do let us know. You can either let us know before the meeting or in the meeting, but that is the time that when we will re-elect office bearers and new members will be able to join the Parent Council. So please do join us for that. It is a really important part of our sort of set up as a Parent Council, so please do consider coming. It will be in person, as it says, in the library. And then the next meeting following that for this term will be on Tuesday, the 26th of November. And again, it'll be an online meeting like this one. So again, you're obviously very welcome. And as today, the link will be shared by the school either the day before or on the Monday before the meeting. Sorry, on the day of the meeting or the Monday before the meeting. Okay, I think, yes, so this is the last slide. I think I will circulate these. It does have our links to various bits of information. But thank you so much. I will, I don't think there are questions. We won't take questions now. We'll deal with them in the Q&A. But if you do have any questions about Parent Council activities, please do pop them in the Q&A, and we'll pick those up once Mr. McCallum has given his presentation. Brilliant. So at this point, I will then ask, I'll stop sharing my slides, and I'll ask Tanya Peters to come on and give her comments about the attendance information and how the school is dealing with pupil attendance. Thanks so much, Tanya.
Hello, and thanks, Hilary, and thank you, everybody, and thanks for having me. I'm just going to talk quite briefly to summarise some of the new developments we're having in sort of maximising and supporting pupils with attendance this session. Firstly, to say I'm Tanya Peters, I'm the Development Officer for Raising Attainment, and part of Raising Attainment is ensuring that young people are at school, because if they're not in school, they can't learn so well. But also, so part of my remit is that I work very closely with my colleague Joao Rice, who many of you might have got a text from, and he is the Pupil Support Officer for Attendance. We are both funded through the Pupil Equity Fund, which is a central government funding stream to close the poverty-related attainment gap. So just to give you a bit of background about that role there. The reason I wanted to come tonight was because I know that you'll have all received, every single family in the school, an email today about just the percentage for the attendance of your child or children. Neil put a short paragraph in the Friday update about it, and it's just to give you a bit of context about that and the other attendance systems that we are improving, developing and continually reflecting on. The Edinburgh Council, City of Edinburgh Council, has launched in August a new council-wide maximising attendance policy, and part of that policy is to inform all families and all parts of the connected with the young people in school of regularly with the attendance percentage. We've chosen to do that monthly. Many other schools have already been doing it monthly, and we feel it's the best timely way and the best way to inform them. So previously, last session, we just a year ago, we introduced an email that informed you of the if your child's attendance had fallen below 85%. And so you may have got an email with that, and there may have been communications and with you to support you with that. From this session, in accordance with the new council policy, everyone will get an email, and it will just tell you the attendance percentage for your young person. The reason for that is that Edinburgh Council, in fact, as with all authorities in the country, is worried about attendance post-COVID. And so in a way, it's really about tracking that in terms of trying to involve you as families in as much information and as much communications as possible about your young person. The email will be sent to you roughly every 4 weeks. And here, as it was obviously at the beginning of September, August is a slightly different month because we only started, a week and a half in. For many of you, it will mean nothing in terms of actions. We are very proud of the very, very good attendance that we have at Gillespie's in terms of in the city. It's incredibly good. We know that family support is an integral part of that excellent attendance that we have. So to thank you, all of you as families, for everything you do to support your young people coming to school and learning and being here. If a young person's attendance after October consistently falls under 90%, then is the point at which we would start to get in touch with you to say, how can we support you with improving that attendance? Up until October, that percentage could be lower, even if your child has been out of school just for 3 or 4 days, because they've only been in school for 4 weeks. But as we get past the September weekend and as we get nearer to the October break, we would start to say that percentage becomes more helpful to us in terms of monitoring and supporting. The reason that the council and we completely support them in this are wanting to do this is because we know that with reduced attendance, as early intervention as possible helps. But that also, I would want to say, comes from you to us. If you are worried about your child's attendance, or if there's anything that's getting in the way as a barrier to them attending us here, please contact either Joao, our pupil support officer, for attendance, or if you already are in contact with them or would find that's the best route, the child's PSL or myself, and we can get back to you and see how we can help to improve that. Just the last thing I want to say, if you have any other comments or questions on that, was that 2 years ago we did a survey of all parents and pupils regarding our internal attendance procedures in order to try and improve that. We took on a lot of the replies and have done a number of things to improve our own accuracy of registers, which we know are not 100% accurate, but we have hugely improved them. And the office worked very hard to follow up them as much as possible as well. One of the things I would say at the moment is that we don't have a full complement of staff in the office right now. So I would also say until we've got our full complement of staffing back, we can't always guarantee as much as we would like. But please tell us, and as soon as you're concerned, or if there's anything that we can improve on, we need to know about that. And I'm just going to stop there. I'm sure you've got lots of questions, and I can answer them when appropriate for you, Hilary. So thank you for your time, and I'll hand back over.
Thanks so much, Tanya. I believe, yes, I've now got the red box, so that's fine. So you can see. So I think, I don't know if you're happy to stay around. There have been a number of questions that have come in, but they're quite, I think it might take a little bit of time just to go through them. So if you're happy to take questions after Ms. McCallum's presentation, if that's okay, then I think possibly at this point we'll move on, and then we'll sort of try and integrate all the different questions that have come up. I think there might be quite a few. The Q&A looks as though it's already quite full. But thank you so much for your comments. That's really helpful. So I think at this point, if it's okay with you, Neil, we'll move on to hearing the head teacher's report. I know, so we've had a number of questions that parents had sent in. Some of them were already going to be addressed on the agenda, and so Ms. McCallum will address those. A number of other things have come in since we developed the agenda, and obviously there are a lot of questions have gone into the Q&A. I genuinely, in the time we have, I'm not sure we'll get through all of them, but we will do our best. So I'll move now then to Neil, and we'll see how far we get. Thanks so much, Neil. I think you have the red box.
Yep, great. Thanks, Hilary. Good evening, everybody, and lovely to have you here this evening. I hope your day has gone well, and thanks for your time this evening. So as Hilary said, I've been asked to talk about some key issues just to update, and I'm going to start in regards to the result of our school surveys. So before the summer we had put through communication with the Parent Council, we had put a survey out to all parents and carers in and around our school community, and that was linked to the Education Scotland inspection, HMI inspection questionnaire. So we pulled the questions from there and supplemented that with some questions in and around our attendance procedures to support with the work that Tanya and Zhao have been doing. So on the back of that, we had 205 responses from our school population last May and June, which would have been some around about 1,600. And just to give you some summary of that this evening, and then I'll be able to share that with the wider school community as well. So looking at confidence and does the school help my child to become more confident, 64% of respondents said yes, that was a positive. In regards to enjoyment and progress, my child enjoys learning in school and is progressing well, so we had 68% in the positive for that. My child is encouraged and supported to work to the best of their ability, we had 60%. In terms of communication, the school keeps me well informed about my child's progress, 43%, and that's something that we're obviously taking on board and we're going to be looking at in the coming school year. In terms of safety and fairness, my child feels safe at school, 79% of respondents were positive about that, and my child is treated fairly at school was 76%. So moving on, onto the areas around about the school supports. My child likes being at this school, 77% again in the positive. My child, staff treat my child fairly and with respect, came out at 78% positive. My child is safe. I feel my child is safe at school was 83%. And then a couple of areas linked, I think, to the previous comment that I said we need to look at in terms of working on. I feel staff know my child as an individual, 50% were in the positive, and my child receives the help he, she or they need to do well was 55%. So those were the kind of key headlines coming out of the parent and carer survey, and part of that we also asked for feedback and further comments. Some of the positive feedback that we received was that many parents strongly agree that the school helps their child to become more confident and feel safe. And there were positive comments about teachers' encouragement and support and highlighting their role in student progress. And some parents appreciated the effectiveness of meetings and calls. Areas for concern and areas that we have to look at, communication. Some parents feel the school does not keep them well informed about their child's progress or as well as they would like to be kept informed. In terms of fairness and safety, a few parents expressed in the comments concerns about their child's safety and fairness and treatment. In relation to attendance and lateness, again, some frustration with the school's attendance and lateness notification systems, but that seemed to be in particular relating to when there are school trips taking place, and that's something we're looking to review and tighten up on. Areas that for suggested improvement then were more frequent and detailed updates on young people's progress, better handling and communication regarding attendance and lateness, and enhanced support for children's emotional well-being, which is something that we've done a lot of work on over the last 2 years and has been led by Mrs. Graham, our Deputy Acting Deputy Head. Areas where there was a kind of mixed feedback were around curriculum and resources with varied opinions on the adequacy of learning materials and still in regards to homework. And again, in terms of health and well-being, there were some mixed reviews on the school meals and physical activity opportunities. So these are all areas that we'll look to link in with. In terms of school meals, we have a new team in our school canteen, and we're trying to work with them to make sure that we're providing healthy nutritional meals and trying to refine the system that we have in there in terms of young people passing through, getting their lunch and moving through quickly. and trying to make sure that we can get that communication information out to parents and carers so as they're aware of what's available in the canteen and know what the young people are able to access in terms of that resource. Elliot Ambrose, who's our active school coordinator, has been on paternity leave. However, we had a meeting last week in and around active schools, and that process again is slightly changing, and that's not just for James Gillespie's High School but for the wider active school programme across the country, and the real focus will be on no cost for any of those activities, and I know Mr Newell, who is the Head of Health and Wellbeing and Physical Education, was looking to communicate with parents and carers in and around the competitive aspect of school sport for the different teams that we have and the competitions both locally and nationally that we enter across a whole range of different sports and activities, where there will be a cost for officiating, transport and entry fees, and trying to make that as accessible as possible and support all of our young people to have the access to that. So that's an evolving and changing programme in line with what's happening nationally and locally as well as within our own school, and obviously we're trying to ensure that we pull all of that together to give our young people the best opportunities to access these opportunities to compete both locally and nationally, as well as for young people who might want to access physical activity for their well-being and their health and also social development. At the same time, the City of Edinburgh Council do a pupil questionnaire which is issued to our pupils through their PSE, their personal social education, with their pupil support leaders, their guidance teachers, and some headlines and feedback for that. It's broken down into different categories. So in the safe category, 60% of our young people who responded said they felt safe in school. I think it's fair to qualify that with most of the responses that we had in the neither agree or disagree column, there was usually an average of 25 to 35% of young people who neither agreed nor disagreed in terms of the responses. In the healthy category, health and wellbeing is valued in my school. 74% of young people agreed and felt that was a positive. Other questions that linked in terms of healthy, I think I get enough sleep on school nights. Only 44% of the young people felt they were getting enough sleep. I think I spend too much time online on devices. 46% of our young people felt that they did spend too much time on devices. So again, an area for us to look at, and I know I'm going to touch shortly in terms of mobile phones and the school's approach in regards to that. In terms of achieving, 70% of young people felt they were getting on well with their schoolwork, and 84% of them said they expected to be able to get a job, college, training or university place when they leave school. In terms of the nurtured section, 60% of our young people felt they had opportunities to use creativity in their learning, and another area for us to look at and really maybe drill a little bit deeper with our young people in around I enjoy learning at school. It was about 52%, and obviously we'd be hoping that would be higher. So that's an area for us to look at with the young people. In the area of respected, couple of ones that stand out for us and areas I think that we need to look at and how we develop and take forward. The Pupil Council is good at getting improvements made in the school. 28% said they agreed or strongly agreed with that. And similarly, I have a say in making the way we learn better in school. Only 30% of young people felt that was the case and they agreed or strongly agreed. Moving on to the responsible category, about staff expect me to take responsibility for my own work in class. 83% of them agreed or strongly agreed with that, and staff encourage me to do the best I can, came through at 62% in terms of how they are engaged and the expectations for them. In the last section, which is about young people feeling included, 62% of them said they knew what activities and youth groups were available in their local area, what activities were available to them in regards to school clubs was 65%. And interestingly, this year for the first time there was a question included in terms of how often do young people use a vape at present. 88% of them responded saying that they don't ever use a vape. with 3% saying that they did every day. So again, it's interesting to get further feedback from our young people in terms of issues that we might need to think about as a school and how we support them in terms of their understanding of the damage of such devices. So that's kind of give you a summary of where we're at and the feedback from both the parent and carer and the pupil surveys. And as I say, I'll be pulling together a summary and issuing that to the whole school community in due course and as quickly as possible. The next part I'm going to move on to is to talk about the school website, communications and the school app. We have our school website, which we brought in-house last year, and we've looked to develop that in a way that allows it to be as accessible as possible. We have had feedback from the Parent Council and the wider parent group in regard to the aspects of that. And really we want that to be a place where you can access information and again, trying to make sure that's as up to date as possible. We also use the school app and we're using that to try and communicate with all parents and carers. Obviously a Friday update comes out through that, and then we're trying to make sure all further communications come out through that, as well as been supplemented by email. We have had a staff working group led by Ms McKeever, one of our deputy head teachers, looking at school communications and trying to improve our communication policy and the processes that we use to communicate with you in regards to all different aspects in terms of the letters that we will send home to you to update you in terms of your young person, to try and make them as parent and carer friendly as possible, and to try and make sure that we use appropriate language to share our updates with you. I think on reflection, as part of that as well, it would be really useful for us to engage with a group of parents and carers to get feedback from them in regards to how we communicate, what's working, what can we do better, and what do we maybe need to start doing. I know in terms of our website, it would be really useful to have a calendar front and centre that's easy to access. Parent and carers can see that. We're also trying to get the calendar aspect on the school app utilised and as up to date as possible, so that you can be able to see that very easily through that school app. So as I say, we will be reaching out and certainly seeking parents and carers to come and work with us. It's a short life working group looking at that, evaluating and trying to see what we can do to make our communication and parental engagement even better, and that is part of our school improvement plan for this coming year. And in terms of school improvement plan and standards and qualities report from last year, we'll also be sharing them with the wider school community and seeking feedback on those different aspects, so that we can work with you to try and ensure we're moving our school forwards and making our school as good as it can possibly be. Mobile phones in the school, you'll be aware that the Scottish Government recently released their new policy in regards to mobile phones in schools. I had been meeting with some of our new S1 parents before the summer, and in our S1 3-day transition, we asked that young people didn't bring mobile phones to school. If they had to for a very specific reason, then we were asking them to turn them off and put them away during the school day, and this was revisited with our S1s in assemblies at the start of the new school term. And I think we need to pull together a communication to share with all parents and carers in and around what our school phone policy is. And again, we're reviewing the school mobile policy in light of the Scottish Government guidance, and we'd like to link in with groups of our young people and parents and carers as well. Obviously, we're very aware of the impact that these devices can have, and they can be positive, but they also bring a lot of distraction and a lot of negativity at times as well. And obviously, we want to ensure our young people are focused on their learning and teaching. So when we returned in August, we revisited this on the in-service day with teaching staff, and we're trying to take a very clear approach in that S1's policy would continue from what we had on our 3-day visit. and with the rest of our year groups, we were following a policy of no mobile phones during class time. So that we're asking staff to be really following that process. All of our young people should have an iPad, and we're asking the iPads to be used to support the pedagogy in the classroom, to support the learning and teaching, and to be used appropriately. They're not used every lesson for all lessons, and they will be used to try and support our young people's learning. So no need for mobile devices to be out or used, or for staff to be asking young people to use mobile devices for anything. They should be using their iPads to support that learning and teaching. And I think, again, we would be looking about how we can take that further by linking in with our young people and with parents and carers to try and make sure that policy is one that we can all work together on. We understand there are times when young people do need their devices. A lot of our young people are actually travelling further distances, and they may need that to support their well-being for a particular reason in terms of communication or support. So again, part of what we did with our S1 back in June was ask any parent or carer to link in with us to make us aware of that and reinforce that. I also met on Friday again with a parental group who approached me about the mobile phone policy, and they've been very positive and very helpful in terms of feedback from parents and carers about the experience in June. And again, it's something we're following up on staff and reviewing what we asked them to do at the start of the term, and linking in with them in terms of ensuring that young people are not using their mobile devices during class time, and really seeking consistency in that regard. And also with our duty head senior team when they're out during the school day, trying to ensure that young people are going to the toilets or anything like that, or not walking about corridors with their mobile devices. So we're really trying to support them to be focused, to be in class, to learn, and really be achieving the best they possibly can, and we'll continue to work on that. And again, very keen to link in with parents and carers about how we move this forwards, and how we find a way to ensure that our young people are here and focused on their learning and teaching, and not distracted by their devices. Moving on to school facilities. Over the course of the summer, we've had some works done to upgrade and improve the decor and the appearance of our toilets. We haven't quite managed to have our partition walls put into the areas that we would like them put into to support that privacy aspect in some of the toilets, as I've shared with the Parent Council before, and that's an issue that I am pursuing, and would like to have that done as soon as possible. We're trying to make sure that the toilets are cleaned. We have a day ranger now, so they're cleaned throughout the course of the school day to try and make sure they're safe, accessible for all of our young people, and they feel safe and secure in the access and the use of the facilities. We've also reviewed and been working with officers from the centre in terms of the campus and the security of our buildings. Obviously, we have two campuses, our main campus on Warrender Park Road and our Dara campus down on Gillespie Street off Gilmore Place, and our young people and staff travel between the campuses in the morning, break, lunch. But we've tried to tighten up the security in and around the buildings, and trying to make sure that these processes are in place, and continue to work with our facilities management team to get the security aspects on all of our external doors in place, and to ensure that we can work with our young people. And again, we shared that with staff at our August in service days and through our year assemblies that we had with all year groups in the first 2 days back in August. And again, the young people have adapted to the areas that we're now asking them to move through, and we'll continue to work to make the campus and the building as secure as possible. And that's certainly a priority for me, because I want all of our young people to feel safe and secure when they come to school, and I want you to feel safe and secure in the knowledge that that's the case when they come to school. So those are the kind of main headlines that I was asked. I'm going to touch now on a few items that I would like to bring to you. The first one being the kind of headlines for our senior phase pupils in terms of their SQ8 exam. diet that they sat in May and received the results at the beginning of August. And these are just the headlines. We work with an analytical tool called Insight, and that usually comes out middle to the end of September, which then lets us drill down a little bit further into the different aspects of the qualifications and how we're doing in comparison to what's called a virtual comparator school. However, I'm able to share with you at this point the kind of headlines for our young people at the end of S4, S5 and S6. So this year for our S4 pupils, by the end of S4, young people who had achieved at least 5 qualifications at level 3 was 97%. Young people who received at least 5 qualifications at level 4 was 96%, and those who achieved at least 5 or more at national 5 or equivalent was 79%, and all 3 of those figures are the best figures that the school has had in the last 6 years. So it's a real positive progress for our young people in S4, and obviously the work that we've done over the last year or two to try and develop our learning and teaching and our approaches and coursing for young people to make sure that they're on appropriate pathways. In terms of our S5 young people, by the end of S5, those who had achieved at least 1 at level 6, which is a higher or equivalent, was 87%. Those who had achieved 3 qualifications at level 6 or better was 68%, and those who had achieved at least 5 or more at level 6 was 48%. And again, those were 6-year high figures across all 3 categories, and a really positive step from last year, increases of anywhere between 5 and 9% across those 3 for our S5. So we're really pleased with how our S5 did. And then into our S6, the achievement was fairly comparable with the last 3 or 4 years, so fairly consistent. So again, by the end of S6, the young people who left us at the end of June, 88% of them had achieved at least 1 higher or equivalent. 69% of them had achieved 3 higher or equivalent qualifications. 58% of them had achieved 5 at level 6 or better, and 51% of them had achieved at least 1 or more advanced higher level or equivalent. So a pretty positive picture for us across, and certainly we'd like to see that transition from our S4 who are now our current S5 in the terms of how they achieve in their hires this coming year, and similarly for our new S6, how they achieve across this coming year, and we're obviously looking to support them with that as they progress, and trying to review on an ongoing basis our curriculum and our pathways to make sure that all of our young people, whatever destination they're hoping to move on to, whether it be college, university, apprenticeship, employment, that we're giving them the appropriate qualifications and support and pathways to access that, to keep as many doors open for them as they possibly can. And the last thing from me at the moment is in regards to our school clubs, and Mrs. O'Brien, who's a deputy head teacher who would normally collate this information, is off at the moment, unfortunately. So I've asked staff to link in with myself to let me know what clubs and they're running, extracurricular activities they're offering, whether that be at lunchtime or after school. It could be in relation to anything from sporting activities, musical activities, chess, knitting, our anti-racist club, study support clubs at different levels. So if they can give that to me, then we'll collate that and share that with the parents and carers as soon as possible. So thanks for your patience in regards to that. And I think if Ellie Ambrose, our active school coordinator, hasn't shared information about what's happening there, I would certainly hope that will be with you very, very shortly. Okay, so I think hopefully I've covered all of the topics that would be good to touch on, and I'll pass back to Hilary.
Great, thanks so much, Neil. I'm waiting for the red box. Here we go. So that I'm never quite sure when we go live. So yes, thank you so much for all your comments. That's super helpful. There have been a lot of questions that your comments have prompted. A lot of questions also that Tanya Peters' report on attendance have prompted. I don't think we're going to get through them all. This meeting should normally be an hour. It's going to be longer than that. But I think possibly maybe we could address some of the questions. So there was a comment made by one person who said that their email about the attendance had gone into their junk mail. And I think that has happened before with email that has come from the central school system. I think once, and that happened to me personally when some information was sent through the school system before. So I think it is worth always checking our junk mail for. I guess that's our responsibility, really. I don't think the school can address that. We just need to be aware that because it comes from where it comes, it can appear as though it could be spam, just because of the system that the school needs to use to send the personalised information to us about our own children. So I think that's something that we do need to be aware of, and so we should look for that. There are many questions. It's going to take me a little while just to go through them. So somebody has sort of said about, where are we? Gosh, I've ordered them now in the popularity of questions. Let me just say, find the one. Somebody, oh gosh, sorry, I'm going to have a quick look through. Somebody was just commenting about the type of support that can be offered to parents whose young person might be struggling with coming into school, and just understanding and sort of that personalized support for individual pupils. And I don't know, Tanya, whether you have any comments about that, how you're dealing with that, and the type of interventions that you feel are most useful. So maybe we'll just sort of, this is a general question, I guess, rather than specifics for, but yeah, please, if you would.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know if you can hear me now. So yeah, no, and I think that's a great question. The support that can be provided if someone's struggling for their child to come in, it will vary. It will depend on the needs of the young person and the issues and the barriers that are stopping them coming in. So if that's regarding additional support needs or diagnoses that might include autistic spectrum disorder, ADHD, then what we would do is work very much with support for learning or additional support for learning service to how we can meet their needs in relation to that diagnosis or those issues. We would always work closely with the family, because each young person is different and everyone with a diagnosis is different. So there might be some young people who have additional support needs, and therefore some flexibility is more helpful, and there might be others for which really strong and clear structure that is applied consistently is helpful, and we would always work with you to respond to that, because you know your children best, and so that will depend on the nature of the young person, and we would very much take your experience of what works best for them. But what we do know is that generally boundaries, structure and regularity helps young people, and it helps them learn for the times after they've left school. That is the same for our response to punctuality and lateness. If someone's consistently late, that would mean more than 3 times a week for more than 3 weeks, then we put consequences in place for that, but they're always agreed with the family and with the pupil support leader. There are some occasions where that might be that's appropriate to the young person, and that can be staying after school and doing additional help here or additional work, or it can be completely dependent on the young person. So the one thing I would say there in relation to the support is it can be working with the family, it can be working with the young person. My colleague Joao, he's in email contact with some young people who are very good on email. Other times it's about phoning, other times it's about arranging a regular time that they come in. With our access to support base, which is an academic support for young people who are either living in poverty or struggling with some attendance issues, We have teachers who can work with them just to get them back their confidence of their learning and efficacy in subjects to a point at which they can then function in classes. But that's an interim support to help them go back into their mainstream classes. So it very much will depend on the young person, that there are some sort of supports in place, particularly into increasing their confidence in learning. But if you want to know more, please get in touch. And if you're interested in getting involved in any our attendance short life working group, which we will be re-establishing, it's another reason why I wanted to come on, please get in touch with myself or Joao, and we'd love to get more of your feedback in that. But any other questions on attendance, Hilary?
Not specifically. I think people were making other comments about, yes, it's important that about sort of the overall sort of experience of pupils in the school, as well as sort of obviously they have to be there, but once they're there they need to sort of be engaging. But there were no particular questions. So thank you so much, Tanya. That's super helpful. Thank you. I think possibly I'll just pick up on one point there, and because it's relevant to something that Neil mentioned, and that's about the short life working groups that the school is sort of planning to have. So obviously you mentioned there about one on attendance, but also there was a comment about website and general communications with the school, and I think and possibly other ones. So I guess, Neil, it would be super helpful at some point just to, when you call for people to come on and sort of volunteer to be on those groups, and whether that's sort of circulated through parent council, but just that we're clear on, parents are clear on how they might want to sort of volunteer themselves. I think that would be, sometimes this information comes out, but it's not always entirely clear to everybody. So I guess just understanding how you'll share that information. So I think at this point might just go, there are many questions, so I think this most straightforward thing is, if anybody wants to upvote any question they're interested in, we'll just start at the bottom of the questions that are most popular, and that most people, more people are wanting to hear a response to. If we don't get through all of them, we will sort of be able to download the chat and we can follow up with them afterwards if you're particularly interested. I'll say that we'll probably leave this open now for another, so at 8 o'clock we'll turn off the Q&A, so you won't be able to post anymore. So you've got 3 minutes left to add any questions in for today, and so please do upvote the questions that are there. So the first question really is, I guess it's about partly to do with attainment and just how to best support pupils to achieve their potential. And so the question that most people have liked is it possible to send the assessment papers home once the teacher has completed that assessment? This is so to help parents know how pupils are doing and therefore can support them accordingly. So I don't know, Neil, whether that is something that is feasible. I imagine that might be quite well. I'll just think, what would be your comment about sort of for letting pupils get their assessment papers so that parents can see how they've achieved in those assessments? I think Kate will be putting you live shortly, but I think we can probably hear you regardless while we're waiting. There we go.
Okay,
yeah,
thanks.
Perfect.
Sorry, Ellie. Yeah, it's certainly something I can go back and have a conversation with our curriculum leaders about. Obviously, particularly as they move into the senior phase, we want to try and keep a record of all of our assessments with our young people, should we need them for exceptional circumstances. Obviously, we want all of our young people to sit exams, but sometimes, obviously, things happen, life gets in the way, and for a very specific reason, could be an injury or an illness or a bereavement, that young people are not always able to sit exams. So obviously we need to retain that information. We're working with staff in terms of communicating with parents and carers about assessments, trying to give parents and carers a communication ahead of time to say that there will be an assessment happening with their young person in the coming week, and then obviously trying to make sure we can follow up in terms of the feedback. So City of Edinburgh Council have just introduced a new tracking and monitoring system, which has been implemented across all schools, both primary and secondaries, and again trying to implement that with the staff at present and across this coming academic year, to try and make sure that we can get the best information to support young people and to get information to parents and carers to support them. I think the other aspect to that is also looking at curriculum evenings across the different year groups to be able to share with parents and carers how they can support their learning for our young people at home, and what resources are positive to be able to access and will support that learning, both in terms of homework and reinforcing the work that young people have done during the school day. Always, as a teacher, keen to say to young people that there is always homework. Even if you haven't been assigned any homework, then it's always good practice to follow up and reinforce the learning that you've done over the course of that day with different aspects, just rereading notes and supporting with that. So yeah, we're very keen. I'm very keen to get curriculum evenings and implement that so that parents and carers have got that information and they've got that support. I think that's an area of the website that we could probably develop a little bit further as well, in terms of access and the resources that parents and carers can use to support the learning at home across S1 all the way through to S6 and their advanced hires. And hopefully that would help us in terms of parental engagement and parental support, and it would be a place for parents and carers to be able to access answers quite easily, a kind of one-stop shop, if you like, with frequently asked questions and hopefully positive answers that will link into support with how parents and carers can support their young person at home.
Great, thanks so much, Neil. And I guess you touched on there, and some questions have already come up about sort of the curriculum evenings. And I appreciate that that's a time that the teachers need to spend, but I think the curriculum sort of a greater awareness across all of the schools, sort of, but particularly I think in the senior phase, I think parents would really appreciate having more access to more information about that, and possibly, as you say, shared through the website when that becomes more feasible, just so that it's clearer to see what each subject is doing and when assessments will be. So I think that's very positive. So hopefully that is something that can happen. The next question on the list, and it goes to sort of a number of different questions about sort of the mobile phone policy, and I mean it's a comment as much as a question, but I think the feedback is that existing policy doesn't always seem to be applied effectively, and the person writing sort of says, my daughter was off sick, but she was still getting WhatsApp messages from her friends in class. So clearly phones are being used. And I think anecdotally we are aware, and I'm sure you are aware of that as well. But it's just to understand sort of how, what support teachers are getting to enforce that policy. And as you said in your comments, you're trying to enforce it equally across the school, but I guess that's not. It's not the experience of everybody that is happening. So I guess it would be helpful. Just, is there anything further you can add as to how you're enforcing that policy?
Yeah, that's something we're certainly going to revisit with staff again. We've got our next in-service day after the October holiday again. Kind of do a regular update for staff on a Friday as well, and meet with our curriculum leaders on a Friday morning. And actually on Friday morning reinforced in and around about our mobile phone policy and how important it is that staff are vigilant and aware in terms of the classroom. Obviously we will support staff. We want our young people to be ready to learn. We want them to be safe, and certainly mobile phones are not part of that within the context of the classroom. So yeah, we will absolutely support the approach with staff. Is if they engage a young person, is to obviously follow a kind of staged intervention about mobile phones, reinforcing that mobile phones should be away. If the young person can't engage with that, they would be asked to put their device on the table and collect it again at the end of the lesson. And then obviously we'll get further staged intervention if young people are choosing not to engage and follow what we've asked with them and we've shared with them through assembly. And obviously we can reinforce that through our key adult time on a Wednesday morning with our young people as well. But again, very keen to support staff, and I think the consistency is the key aspect to this, and really reinforce that with staff in August, and we'd be keen to continue to do that, because obviously if young people feel they can get away you know, it's not applied consistently across the school, then that's what normally creates an issue for us. So we will continue to revisit that, and again look at our policy and how we can make sure that supports the teachers as well as the young people, because obviously we want them to have the best experience and work with them to get the best policy that allows that to happen, and that focus on learning and teaching.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I can see it's not straightforward in a classroom setting, but I think it is something that I know it's good to hear that the active steps you're taking to address that. And then this just follows on, because obviously we've got the use of phones in classrooms, but then of course when pupils go on break time and they're travelling. So I mean, someone has asked a popular question: what are the guidelines for mobile phone use in the playground? And is that something that, I mean, I don't know what. Yeah, what would your comment be for playground use, and are there any steps you're taking to sort of regulate or intervene on phone use there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we talk to our young people about responsible use, and that applies to their mobile phones and their iPads. So it doesn't matter which device they're using, that they have to use it responsibly, and they have to use it effectively. And I think the playground aspect and the aspect of breaks and lunch is an area that we need to develop within our policy, and obviously looking at the Scottish Government guidance and what we think as a school community is the way forwards is the aspect in terms of next steps for us. But currently I would certainly be expecting our young people to be using them responsibly. If they're not, then we would deal with that in the same way. If they weren't using their iPad, we'd link in with home, we'd talk to them about using devices responsibly. And again, our community police officer, PC Morton, is happy and is doing inputs with different year groups, and we're keen to have a parent and carer workshop. PC Morton's done that for us before in the past in terms of mobile phone safety, but online safety as well. And again, if there are any parents or carers out there who would have that knowledge and expertise in terms of online safety and would be keen or happy to come in and work with us and present an event for parents and carers, I think anything we can do to promote that understanding of the devices and effectively the pocket computers that mobile phones have now become, and the access to the internet, and really reinforcing that thought that the internet is a place, and we would need to make sure that we're protecting and safeguarding our young people. So yeah, and again we would follow through with our pupil support leaders, support our young people, try and educate them and ensure they understand the concerns or the issues that they may be creating for themselves, and making sure that our young people again are safeguarded, safe and looked after.
Super, thank you. The couple of questions. One is about sports clubs, but there's another question that's also popular about homework. And again, I know that there have been issues about how homework is shared with parents. And again, I think this is just a way, it goes under, I think, school communications in general, how parents are finding out about the work that their young person is doing and what homework is being required. So my S1 and S3 are telling me that they have little to no homework. Will this change, and can this be shared with parents? But I think the broader question is, yeah, so how are parents finding out about homework, and is that something that's sort of through the young person, or is there a direct communication that parents can have with sort of a homework site about what's being required?
I mean, we don't have a direct communication with parents and carers at the moment. There used to be Show My Homework, however there were issues with that particular application, so it's not currently been used within the authority as far as I'm aware, and so we had investigated about the possibility of parents and carers having access and being able to see that through the young person's team in the calendar, and again need to revisit that. The member of staff who was leading that isn't with us anymore, so again it's just trying to pick that up and make sure that we can look at that and we can review that. I think that links into what we were touching on earlier on in terms of the information and how we can share that with parents and carers, so as they can have an understanding of what the expectations would be for homework across the different subject areas. Obviously the core subjects, literacy, numeracy, English and maths, are ones that I would imagine parents would be expecting homework, and it would be good to be able to have an overview that you can see what the expectations would be across the different years, and again kind of trying to ensure that we build on the work that our primary colleagues have done as they transition from primary into S1, and trying to continue the good work and extend and challenge our young people as well, and again trying to use homework quite often to ensure our young people are doing work or preparing before coming in to class, to build on that kind of flipped learning approach as well with them across the year groups. So I think definitely we've still got work to do on that. I know when I first started, I'd met with parents and carers, and that was really positive and supportive. And again, I think we probably need to revisit that and review our homework policy in terms of how we deliver that, and sharing with parents and carers what the expectations are and what they can expect from us in terms of that homework as well.
Thank you. And I think possibly this then goes back to the, again, working groups. I know there was a homework working group, and if that's something that you're looking again to sort of have that dialogue with parents about, I'm sure there'll be people, certainly Parent Council would be very happy to support sort of setting that up again. There's comments, I mean, I think we have touched on it already, but about sort of sharing information about the clubs that are available. And I know that's something that you're looking to get put up onto the website. I think the different opportunities that there are for young people to do different things and be exposed to different opportunities to the clubs. I think parents would appreciate hearing about that, and if that's something that can be shared more widely, either via the website or via a one-off communication, I think that would be much appreciated. I'll just feed that back. The other thing to feedback, I think it is something that I know Parent Council has discussed before about the availability of reading texts in English in particular, and I know that although there are texts that are available sufficient for a class to have enough, they're not necessarily enough that the pupils can then take those books home with them, so they need to remain in school. And a number of people have said that they would be happy to fundraise for reading books in English, so either through the Small Sums Fund or whatever. So I think we can take that, and maybe that's something that Parent Council can pick up as to how we might coordinate fundraising for English departments. And I think maybe that's something we can discuss with the department directly or with yourself. I think there's a lot of appetite to go forwards with that. So there's a comment. The other thing is around, I don't know whether we haven't got Elliot with us, but I think there's been a number of sort of questions around how the sports clubs are being managed, and the difference between sort of general participatory clubs and then the sort of the people who are competing and therefore on a slightly different track, and how that's decided and how pupils are selected. And I don't know whether you can comment on that. I think there is some concern that not all pupils are necessarily getting the same opportunity, and I think there's just concern that is acknowledged at least and sort of and addressed where necessary. So I don't know whether you have a comment to add to that.
Yeah, no, I would just say obviously we're very aware and we're very fortunate. We've got such a vibrant school community and young people that want to engage in the whole range of different opportunities that are available for them. And I think particularly our PE department and our active school programme is almost a kind of victim of its own success to a degree, in the fact that it's quite wide, it's very open, but obviously with the resources that we have in terms of our facilities, our games hall, our gym, and AstroTurf area, and etc., what have you, that they're effectively utilised to the maximum potential. They're used before school. They're used obviously throughout the whole of the school day, right through to 6 o'clock. And obviously we have teams competing and participating at weekends. We're always keen for more volunteers to be able to support with teams, for example. Sometimes we're limited by people to actually take teams. Sometimes we'll be able to have more than one football team or basketball team, for example, but we try to certainly make sure that as many young people as possible. And as I say, the active school programme approach now is really to try and make sure that all young people, particularly those from more disadvantaged backgrounds, are able to access those health and wellbeing opportunities. And as I say, I know Elliot Ambrose, our active school coordinator, will be keen to share all of that information. And I know Mr. Newell has been working in terms of communications to come out to parents and carers to update in terms of the competitive aspect of the sport, so the basketball, the athletics, football, whole range of different sports where young people will be able to access that, and we're trying to obviously keep the costs as low as possible and make it as accessible for everybody. And again, there will be supports there for any young person who is perhaps not able to financially afford that. We want to make sure we remove those barriers, and that's certainly not an issue, to support those young people to access those opportunities, because we know that the qualities that they can bring and the support that can bring and the difference it can make for young people. So yeah, I think as Elliot and Graham have spoken before, we'd like to be able to offer even more, but sometimes just with the size of our school population and the number of facilities we have, it's not always possible to offer even more. But certainly they're keen to have as full a programme as possible running at lunchtime and after school, and to give opportunities right across our whole school community.
Fantastic, thank you. And I'll just comment that somebody has said for the P7 to S1 transition, that how to thank the school for making that such a good transition day, the sports day, hitting just the right note of organised, relaxed, sporty mingling, and there's a nice atmosphere, and thank you to the organisers. So that's really good to hear that sort of participatory sport was really good and really brought, you know, the new P7 S1 teams together. So that's fantastic. I'm just going to circle quickly back because I missed this comment before from Callum, but thank you for that, which was so it goes along, I guess, a little bit with the support for the English texts and books and things within the English department, but also maybe and I think to discuss how the parent carer community could improve the school library, which I guess, you know, obviously having for pupils having and young people to have access to those texts through the library as well as through the classroom is really important. So thank you for your comment, and I think that is something that we could work maybe together, those two things, sort of books in classrooms but also in the library. It's really good comment, so thank you for that. Moving up the list of questions, because I appreciate we're moving through the evening, but Bill has asked, how are the dangers of vaping communicated through the school curriculum? And is that
Yep, so that would be part of our smoking cessation policy. Each school should have a smoking cessation policy, and vaping, electronic cigarettes are all part of that as well. That's delivered through our PSE programme, and obviously visiting that. It's something we've touched on in assemblies in the past as well, and just really tried to raise awareness for our young people about the contents of vapes and the dangers of them, and to really educate them in terms of what it is that they're putting into their bodies, putting into their lungs, and the long-term dangers that are there. Obviously, the research is still relatively new, but we're very keen to engage with that, and anything that helps us evidence for our young people in a way that allows them to understand the dangers of these devices and what they're doing. It's really important to us. Obviously, a lot of people think they're better or for your body, if you like, than cigarettes because they don't contain nicotine. So again, it's trying to dispel a lot of those types of myths, because the vast majority of vapes, if not all, probably do contain nicotine, as well as, you know, quite a lot of them have other contents that you really wouldn't want to be putting into your body. So again, through our pupils' support leaders and the guidance team, they'll deliver that through the PSE programme.
Great, thank you. There have been a number of questions, and I think this comes back, but it's obviously relevant every year, about school trips and the support for senior pupils, because somebody's commented that their child hasn't been on one and they're now in S6. So do you have any comment about the school trips and how pupils are going to find out about them, where they're advertised, or where the listing is available, or just what's going to be offered for pupils as they move through the school?
Yeah, so again, we're trying to pull together a resource very similar to our school clubs so that we can share that with parents and carers, to make sure that they can see the range of different excursions that we're able to offer from S1 all the way through to S6. And then we would look to update that and reissue that on an annual basis, so that parents are aware of what opportunities will hopefully be there in place at the different stages of young people's school careers. Absolutely appreciate that certain year groups on the back of COVID will have been impacted in different ways, and again, a lot of our excursion staff obviously give up their evenings and weekends to support these trips, and we do have a number of trips which are beginning to return. Parent Council will be well aware, and we've talked about this previously, about the City of Edinburgh Council's revision of the excursions policy, and we certainly worked very hard as a school to reintroduce the vast majority of trips that had happened previously, such as our Spanish exchange, dance trip, German exchange, French exchange, our CERN trip for senior pupils. We have the geography trip, which goes out to Arran. A history trip, which used to be the trenches, has been slightly adapted and still tries to take in a similar type of experience within the UK. So again, it's really trying to look at that, and it's trying to make sure that all of these trips are equitable, so they're able to be offered to the whole cohort, whichever particular cohort that is. That they're accessible, so they're financially viable for young people. And again, as a school, we have an opportunities fund, as well as using pupil equity fund, which Tanya, who spoke earlier, has led in terms of engaging with parents and carers, and that was one of the key things that came back from parents and carers, was about that support to allow young people to access these opportunities. So there certainly are excursions that are taking place again. I know staff are always looking for the opportunities that link into the curriculum. We're linking in with a lot of workshops at universities locally as well, and trying to really access all the opportunities that are on our doorstep, as well as further afield. So as I say, in terms of pulling together our booklet about excursions, Mrs. Sinclair in the school office, who supports me with that, we're pulling that together as quickly as we can, and we'll get that information shared. It won't include absolutely every single excursion that we do over the course of a school year, because a number of them will come in throughout the year, but ones that happen on a regular basis and probably carry a bit more of a cost with them, if you like, so that parents and carers can be aware of that. And again, as a school, we're very keen to support.
Brilliant, thank you. I think, yeah, as you say, sort of the ones especially that have a lead time in, so if there is a substantial financial thing, or it's a big trip away, I think that would be really helpful, just that parents as well as pupils and young people are aware of what's coming up and what they might want to choose to take part in. Thank you. There have been a few questions about Gaelic medium education at the school. So some question, can you say something about plans for the Gaelic education? And they're asking when will this be leaving Gillespie's, but also a question around is Gaelic available to the wider population, whether or not you're in the Gaelic medium education stream? Can pupils that are in the English language stream, can they also access sort of learning in Gaelic? So yeah, so any comments that you have about how Gaelic medium education is developing at the school? Yeah.
So I suppose from our perspective as a school, it goes from strength to strength. We've got a very strong team. We have Miss McKeever, who's a deputy head with the lead for Gaelic, Mr. Medvin, who's our curriculum leader, as well as a number of teachers teaching across the different subject areas. So we're very fortunate. We've got a very strong team. In terms of Gaelic leaving Gillespie's, there's certainly no plans in the immediate future for that to happen. I know the council continue to work with the Scottish Government and locally and politically in terms of looking at the Gaelic High School, but at the moment there is no plan in place for that, and we continue as a school to work with officers at the centre in regards to Gaelic and the Gaelic provision, both here at James Gillespie's but across the city as well, and we're linked into the Gaelic Learning and Teaching Board, and how that's led. in terms of our young people who come through the English medium education, if you like, presently we don't. The school, I believe, used to offer learners Gaelic, but not presently. Can certainly have a discussion with our languages department and with Mr. Medvin and Miss McKeever and around that, if that's something that there's an appetite for. But again, we would look at that and see the possibilities of being able to deliver that. But certainly our young people who come for Gaelic medium education, very much part of our school community. We're fully integrated. We do have 2 campuses with our young people from S1 to S6 who are doing Gaelic, accessing both campuses for that education, as well as a number of our senior pupils who use both campuses as well through the English medium education. So certainly no plans at the moment. We would certainly be envisaging Gaelic moving away from the school.
Thank you. There are a lot of questions and we're not going to get through them all. One of the questions, a sort of common theme though is around sort of parent consultations. This is not a new topic that's been brought up, but the whether they're online or in person, how long the slots are, and so I mean definitely a call for people wanting to have in-person parents' evenings rather than all online, but also lengthening the window, you know, the meeting opportunity time, so longer than 5 minutes. I don't know whether you have any comment, but just in general about how you anticipate delivering parents' evenings to the different year groups and how long you anticipate that the meeting slots being for parents.
Yeah, we've discussed that recently, and I know we've consulted with parents a couple of times in and around the parents' evening, and it seems to always come out pretty much a 50-50 split in regards to online and in person. But we are aware that some year groups, again, due to COVID and a variety of different reasons, perhaps haven't been into the building. So we're trying to pull together a programme where it might be a combination of online and in person, because again, every time we have a consultation evening, it seems to be a real split about what parents and carers prefer. So I know Mr. Cotter, who's our deputy head, who leads with the tracking, monitoring, reporting and parents' evening, consultation evenings, is just finalising that, pulling that together. We'll share that with the parent council ahead of getting that out to the wider school community as well. In terms of the time slots, it's a perennial challenge for us. Again, as part of the working time agreement for teachers, there's a certain amount of time built in to their working week for these evenings and across the school year. And obviously if we increase the size of the appointments, it will reduce the number of appointments that we're able to offer. And obviously understand as well, quite often if teachers have more than one class in a particular year group, then it becomes a challenge to see all of the parents and carers. We have talked about trying to be proactive in terms of the parents consultation meetings and trying to approach parents and review that and look at that as well. So again, that's something we can certainly more than happy to link in with the wider parent body and receive feedback on.
Great, thank you. So I think we're going to draw to a close very, very shortly. So these are just comments, but I think people are. So someone has asked, will we get to see the data and typed responses to the survey that you were discussing? So I know that we've previously at Parent Council, we have shared on the Parent Council website the documents that you shared with us, and we put up some graphs based on the information that was shared. So we can certainly reshare that in through the school newsletter, so that is available. So I can comment just from the Parent Council view on that one. Yeah. Someone has asked as well about the school concert at Christmas time, and has asked whether is there a school concert at the Usher Hall this year, and if not, is this likely to return in future years? I don't know whether that's something you can comment on at this time.
I'll link in with Miss McLennan in the music department, and I'll come back to you to confirm that, and we'll get communications out to everybody in regards to that. So that everyone's aware of what's happening for all our different concerts over the course of the year.
That would be super. Thank you. And so I know this has come up as well before previously about understanding for people to understand about the prices in the canteen. I know it seems a small trivial thing, but actually it's really important, obviously, depending on how much children have on their cards, etc. And I think it's still quite difficult for pupils to find out those costs. So just a feedback that would be really helpful if that could be shared more widely.
Yeah, I'll follow up on that today. I was actually having that conversation with some of our pupils in the queue in the canteen at lunchtime today, and saying we really need to have visible prices up. So I'll link in with our catering team and try and get that done as quickly as possible, and at the same time get from them an overview so that I can share that with parents and carers, so that you're able to see what's available and what the prices are.
Thank you. And I think it's now at 8:30, so I think we will draw to a close. I know there are questions, just to let parents who are listening, I know there are questions about capacity. There were questions about Darach and how that's going. What we will try to do with Parent Council is sort of take a digest of the questions, and maybe, Neil, if you're happy, we can forward them to you if there are any comments that you could add to any of those comments. There are a number of things about people with different views on phones and the importance, again, of addressing that. But I think you have really explained the school's policy that very clearly. There were, as I say, there were a number of questions around opportunities for pupils to move out of school, whether that be in work experience or on trips. And I think maybe that's something we can revisit at future meetings, just how work experience and how pupils are encouraged or given opportunities to take those up. To take experiences in places of work would be useful to understand. I think parents are always keen to know how best to support their young person to do that. And I think possibly hearing again, we can ask to hear from Elliot at a future meeting around how the sports and the active schools and how people are being chosen or selected for school teams. I think it's something that always the way it's being set up now is different from how it was, and maybe that's not necessarily filtered through to pupils exactly how they're getting selected. And I think we can maybe hear from Ambrose how he's seeing that work once we've had another month of school going through. And the final comment, I think maybe we will address this once you get the data from Insight on all of the school, the recent SQA results. And I know that there's a lot of information that you will get once everything's settled and all the appeals have gone through and the results are finalised. So maybe we can have another session. I think Nigel Cotter has previously spoken to us, and so possibly that might be something again that we could maybe just, parents are always keen to just understand how things are shifting, but maybe that's something for a future meeting as well. But it was very positive to hear how well pupils had done. So many congratulations to all those young people for the great success that they've obviously worked so hard for. So that was really encouraging to hear. I think at that I will say thank you so much to Neil. That is a long meeting. And thank you so much for Tanya. I know she's had to leave now as well, but thank you so much. Thank you again to everyone who's put in questions. It's really helpful to just hear about the issues that are concerning to you, and hopefully you've had some answers. If there's anything that you didn't feel that you got the information that you needed, please do email to the Parent Council. We do follow up, and we have a monthly meeting with the school team, so we can certainly follow up any of the issues that are of interest. And I think, as we were commenting, and obviously the school's keen to get input through these short life working groups on attendance, as we heard, on the website and communications, on homework, and so we'll certainly feed that back and ask for parents who want to get involved. And absolutely take up the parents who are keen to do fundraising for school reading books. That's really positive, and certainly we will follow up to understand how best Parent Council can support you to organise if that's something that you're keen to do. So thank you, and I think at that we will encourage you to come to the AGM on the 9th of October, and wish you for today a very good evening. Thank you so much. Bye for just now.